Well, in fact, President Cyril Ramaphosa was speaking there at the main commemoration of Workers' Day in Mpumalanga, and that's where we'll be in conversation with Alexio Musindo, Director of ILO Decent Work Team in the Eastern and Southern Africa, and the country office for Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, and South Africa. Mr. Musindo, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. So, of course, we're talking about Workers' Day. There are a number of strides that have been made when we speak about conditions in the workplace, but some issues still persist in this country especially. I want us to start with the emergence perhaps of artificial intelligence and its impact on the job market. I mean, how bad is it in terms of the displacements of millions of jobs?
Okay, now thank you for having me, and let me start by saying happy Workers' Day to all your colleagues and the nation and those in the studio. Digitalization, artificial intelligence has definitely come up just like every time when there is technological improvements. There's been job losses. At the same time, there's been new opportunities that have been created. So as ILO, we are looking from both the jobs that are being lost and those that are being created. But at the same time, it's also important to consider the working conditions for those who are affected by the digitalization. And what do I mean by that? With the traditional workplace in the agricultural sector, you know where the workers are, you talk to them, you have collective bargaining with the workers. Now with digitalization, with people being replaced by robots, by machines, the issues of collective bargaining, dialogue, job losses come into place. But however, ILO studies have shown, and studies and globally, not in South Africa yet, that actually there hasn't been a significant loss in jobs as a result in digitalization.
And I mean, I'm looking at just some of the reports that have been made, and some of the numbers are quite staggering in as far as, the effects of artificial intelligence. But just in terms of the opportunities, I want us to speak about that. But I just want to read you some of these stats in terms of the impact. In the 2020, the World Economic Forum predicted that by 2025, 85 million jobs across the globe could be displaced due to a division of labor between humans and machines. The World Economic Forum also indicated that at the same time, 97 million new roles or new jobs may emerge. And that's where I want to pick up in terms of the work that you do in terms of, jobs and opportunities. Where can we find those opportunities? What does the lay of the land look like at the moment?
Okay, I think one of the challenges that we face is the fact that the colleagues at school right now, we are preparing for jobs that we do not know yet about. So they are learning based on what we know about the labor market. And as ILO, one of the support areas we give to governments is around skills anticipation. You have talked of the millions of jobs to be lost, but at the same time, there are also new millions of job opportunities that are to come, which we might currently not know. So the skills anticipation work is to try to work around that, foreseeing what are the likely opportunities that can come as a result of artificial intelligence, as a result of digitalization. And then how do we, as South Africa, as Africa in general, start training people at primary school, secondary school, tertiary college for jobs in the next 5 years that we do not know. And that is the work that we are currently doing with the various partners. So yes, jobs will be lost, but let's start training for those jobs that we anticipate might be created in the future.
And I think that's very important, given the issues that persist today, with high unemployment being one of those. So where do you then start looking at those opportunities? And when you say you need to involve children as young as children in primary schools, I mean, can you just give us examples in terms of how that will look like?
Okay, so what we have in a number of sectors is, in the ILO, we call it jobs without people and people without jobs, where we have people being trained for what the labor market no longer currently needs. So our core is where we bring in the private sector, the tertiary education, all education systems together, and the government as a policymaker to now say from the industry, for example, if we look at the motor industry, what does the motor industry look like in the next 5 years? And there you bring in the manufacturers, the assembly line people, and then start saying, what is skills do you need? And as we look at the primary school right now, the secondary school right now, as you develop the skills, you're already putting that industry needs into place. Secondly, we are also trained to work for somebody. And our call is also, how can we put entrepreneurship training right at primary school so that the kids who are currently at primary school are not just learning to prepare to work for someone, but for them also to be innovators and business people. So when we look at this job value chain, if I put it that way, we need to address it right from the time people go to school and bring in the private sector in particular to that discussion. So that is how we see it as ILO to have that tripartite dialogue of how what the private sector would need in the coming years, and ask now the professors at university, the technical vocational trainers to say, this is what we need. How can you supply that in the coming 5 years, 10 years, and so on?
How crucial do you think ethical leadership plays as you go and look at, just some of your interventions now? How important is leadership to foster in some of those plans?
Leadership drives everything, if I might put it that way. And as you call it, ethical leadership does drive everything. So for us, what we then put is why the call to have the tripartite dialogue, when leadership in government, that is steering the nation for the next few years, the workers themselves, through trade unions, FEDUSA, COSATU, and the private sector leadership, that also would like to create the jobs and make profits, increase productivity. How do we bring all together so that there's an accountability framework that comes with it? Workers, I take them as leaders because workers have a responsibility to deliver if companies are to grow. So the leadership role for me, or for us from the ILO within this technological change, let me also climate change and all the changes happening in the world, applies to workers in their positions, to private sector, and to government. And it is critical. Trust amongst the three partners is central if we are to address the technological change that is coming with digitalization.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Alexio Musindo is the director of ILO Decent Work Team in the Eastern and Southern Africa.